welcome everybody to the Ring Generals podcast. My name is the RKJ man, Ryan Johnson, and I'm joined by Swifty Jesse Chaparro. How you doing, my man?
Good, my brother. I'm good. I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I would just also like to say you give the worst countdowns ever. Okay, we did like 10 countdowns before this. Okay,
Hey,
hopefully.
I'm not our boy Easy E. Okay.
Okay, you are not. Hopefully, Nick, if you're watching this, Nick is going to edit this thing right now. Hopefully, Nick, you edit this thing perfectly and you show some of our missed countdowns and me trying to sing Michael Jackson or whoever it is, or Rockwell. Whoever it was, I was trying to sing it before. I was doing a terrible job. Hopefully, you guys will see that coming up. But we've got a big podcast for y'all today. Okay, a lot of big things happen in the wrestling industry. And let me just say something, okay? If you've been hating wrestling for the past year and a half like me, or if you haven't been watching like me, okay, or Jesse, definitely Jesse. Jesse doesn't even watch. He barely even knows some of the songs for some of the things.
Hey, man. Can't blame me.
I can't blame you. Guess what? This was your week to come back. A lot of newsworthy notes, a lot of big things are happening. We still have things happening as of 24 hours and what the things that are happening today. So let's get to maybe the biggest thing that happened from the previous week. John Cena, Jesse, returned to Money in the Bank and one of the loudest pops I have ever heard. Okay, I have this great TV in our living room. Okay. Mm-hmm. My TV was shaking. Okay, I thought the cops were going to come over with how loud the TV was and how loud the crowd was when John Cena came out. I mean, everybody and their mom knew pretty much that John Cena was going to come out. I mean, we had sources all over the place saying it was confirmed for John Cena and Roman Reigns next month at SummerSlam. We had sources saying, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, Fightful and Sean Ross Sapp saying, hey, it's more than likely John Cena will show up earlier in the weekend. And he showed up, and oh my goodness, Jesse, he was huge. So give me your thoughts really quickly on John Cena showing up, the Roman Reigns situation, us going to SummerSlam and seeing John Cena versus Roman Reigns in the main event of SummerSlam at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Woo!
Ooh, dude, it's got my heart pounding, man. And it's going to pound even harder as soon as we get there in Las Vegas. You know what, man? I'm actually stoked for this one. Actually, they're doing something right by this storyline, too. So, it's like a bit twist. Instead of Brock Lesnar, they brought in John Cena. And we were all hoping Brock Lesnar, but now we got the better part. John Cena, the mega superstar, the OG, the king. Basically, anything you could name him, you could think of, he's that. And, man, I'm excited, actually. It actually got me from watching from MMA to pro wrestling. So that says a lot to me. But yeah, dude, I'm stoked.
Look, I know it's a big deal when you get out of MMA just to watch pro wrestling, man, because you haven't been watching for a very long time. And I understand it. We kind of say how you're the MMA guy and I'm the WWE guy and the wrestling guy. But I think we can all agree John Cena is fantastic. Today I had to go to a work meeting. Okay, and at that work meeting, I was like, yeah, man, John Cena came back. I'm going to SummerSlam next month. And he's like, oh, my God, John Cena came back. And, like, everybody was going crazy over that. Like, my whole table was talking about it. I realized, man, there's a lot of people who are John Cena fans out there. It's very interesting, okay? If you want to go to a basketball analogy, all right, John Cena is the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling right now. He's the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling. He has been
I agree.
For so long. He is a legend in his own right. He is the GOAT right now in this current generation. And then you have Roman Reigns doing the damn thing. And I consider him like the LeBron James of this generation. What if LeBron James and Michael Jordan faced off against each other? It would be phenomenal, but we will never see that, Jesse.
I'll say this, though. I'd say this event is actually better than John Cena versus Bautista. That actually got me those vibes. And if not better, because I actually thought this storyline will be even better than John Cena versus Bautista. Now, Roman Reigns is doing his thing on his own right, but you know he's been kind of catching up on his cousin, the Dwayne Johnson's laurels a little bit, you know, because they got to use that name. That Uso family is huge. And you cannot escape that name no matter how hard you try. But Roman Reigns is making it on his own, and I'm happy for that.
Look, you know how I feel, Jesse. I've been saying this for a while. All roads lead to The Rock versus Roman Reigns next year in Dallas, Texas, AT&T Stadium, 105,000 people watching Roman Reigns versus The Rock, title versus the career. And I believe this is the first step in Roman Reigns' ultimate destination to get to that matchup is John Cena. It's fantastic. I'm very, very excited to see how the WWE is going to navigate this. Do I think John Cena should win this matchup? Hell no, he shouldn't win this matchup. Roman Reigns is on a tear, y'all. And if you don't believe that, you are on the biggest type of cocaine, crack, methamphetamines mixed with methanol, all that stuff, okay? And you need to stop doing that. Okay, because the fact of the matter is this, Roman Reigns is the top superstar, the top active superstar in all of professional wrestling. I know some of you guys from AEW or big AEW fans are going to say, what about Kenny Omega? You New Japan nerds are going to come out and say other things about other people. I mean, I get it, okay? I understand that. I understand everybody has their different wrestling companies that they go to that they love, who they think is the best. But I'm saying right now, if you don't think Roman Reigns is at the top of his game, you are insane in the membrane, as the saying goes, as the song goes. So the fact of the matter is this. Roman Reigns versus John Cena is the perfect starting point for Roman Reigns to eventually get to The Rock. He needs to go through several legends, so much to the point where The Rock has to come out and beat him or try to beat him for that championship, because if Roman Reigns goes through all these legends one by one, his power is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Roman Reigns isn't just going to stay on SmackDown. He's going to be on Raw and SmackDown. Hell, he might even go to NXT because they need it too. The fact of the matter is this. This is a huge, huge, huge matchup next month in Allegiant Stadium. And it's really very interesting because these dream matches, the more and more we start thinking about it, the more and more fleeting they're getting. So to have Roman Reigns versus John Cena, to have a Seth Rollins versus an Edge, we're not going to count Bill Goldberg. We don't like Bill Goldberg on this podcast.
He might be coming back, though.
He is coming back. Unfortunately, it looks like all roads point to Bill Goldberg and Bobby Lashley. We're not going to talk about that. We're actually thinking about walking out of that match. We're actually thinking about trying to get some people.
We're actually thinking about protesting that match overall.
I think we're at least going to do something on Twitter or something. I can't do it, but I highly doubt you're going to get people who pay like $500 to leave something. But we'll see about that. But the fact of the matter is this is a huge matchup, and this is something that we've been waiting for. We talked a lot about the return of fans. We talked a little bit, Jesse, about hoping that once the WWE gets back to live crowds, will things pick up? And it definitely seemed like this weekend, Monday Night Raw is a little sketchy, but Monday Night Raw is always sketchy. But for the most part, SmackDown and Money in the Bank, things picked up. Now, Jesse, if you were WWE creative, if you were in WWE creative, how would you book this storyline and how would you book the match?
Oh, man. Shit. Good question. It's tough to say, man. I, as an MMA guy, I'll have like a bunch of my favorite like fighters in there and hash it out. But not that you brought it up, I'll say this. Usos. I'll have, who else? Daniel Bryan, I believe, is in there. Who else? Name a couple of guys in there, and I'll tell you who was my pick and why.
Wait a minute. Okay, I think you went to left field here. Okay. Okay. So if you were in creative, WWE creative, how would you book it? I'm Vince McMahon. I'm the Black Vince McMahon. Okay. All right. I'm not just Black Stradamus. I'm the Black Vince. Okay. Let's say, for instance, okay, I come to you and I'm like, Jesse, I need you to write this storyline for Roman Reigns versus John Cena. My ultimate goal for WrestleMania is Roman Reigns versus The Rock. Every single storyline has to have some tidbit of The Rock possibly being mentioned, or some way, somehow, The Rock may be involved. How would you involve this situation, knowing the fact that the plans allegedly is for Roman Reigns and The Rock as Plan A for next year's WrestleMania?
Okay, that's a better detail. Okay, the way I'll bring it up though, I'll have the Uso brothers face John Cena, and then John Cena talk about the Uso family and go after Roman Reigns, and then after that, he'll probably slightly mention it. Dwayne Johnson's name in there. It's like, I defeated him. I beat your whole family, so why not? And then Roman Reigns would retaliate and possibly, most likely, will defeat John Cena to the road.
So here's the situation.
I mean, that's the way I would play it up.
And I think that's the way it is going to play, Jesse. But my biggest thing is this. When we get to the matchup, I don't want to see any screwery, okay? One little nitpicky thing, and I know it. A lot of people are going to tell me, well, RKJ, man, Roman Reigns is a heel. What do you expect? He's supposed to cheat. But I want my heels who are as dominant as Roman Reigns to not need any help. And so far, all we've seen is Roman Reigns in this family situation. We've seen him needing Seth Rollins to come out and have beef with Edge in order to cost Edge the match. We've seen multiple other things happen where Roman Reigns has kind of gotten lucky. I would like this matchup against John Cena to be Roman Reigns winning clean. Now, I know what people are going to say, okay? 3 years ago, Roman Reigns won against John Cena. But we're not even going to talk about that matchup because that matchup was 3 years ago, and they were in two completely different places. Roman Reigns is a completely different person, character, looks-wise. He's completely different from 3 years ago. His confidence is off the charts. So I don't want that conversation of that matchup mentioned tomorrow night as we do this podcast on a Thursday night on SmackDown or throughout this feud. Okay, I don't care about that. What I care about now is how are you going to incorporate this and set it up perfectly for The Rock next year at WrestleMania. And so if you have a situation where you're doing it right, you find a way to incorporate The Rock by John Cena saying, hey, I've beaten your cousin, I'll beat your ass. Okay, it's just one of those situations where I've beaten your cousin, I'll beat you, I'll beat the Usos, I'll do all this. Now, I do not want to see the Usos be weak now. Okay, I do not want to see a 2-on-1 handicap match with John Cena going over clean. That should not happen. Okay, we need to find a way to be creative in this storyline, and I do think the WWE will be creative, but they need to incorporate The Rock some way somehow because I do believe that is their final in-game destination. Jesse, you have any other comments on this before we move on to our next topic?
Unfortunately, I don't, man. You actually hit it all on point. I think I'll add this, though. I think there will be a tag team match with John Cena and possibly somebody else. Now, I don't know who somebody else may be, but it might be implemented.
Well, I just hope if they do these stupid tag team matches and handicap matches that they do them creatively, and it's just John Cena and it's not just John Cena going over and making the Usos look like idiots. Although, granted, Jimmy Uso winning that tag team championship's a little sketchy. It's a little sketchy. But what did I tell y'all? I said this on our podcast when we talked about Jimmy. His saving grace is the fact that he's a part of the Samoan family. His saving grace is the fact that The Rock will most likely be facing Roman Reigns next year. And as reports came out, Dave Meltzer, somebody reported it, that the reason why they kept him, the reason why they put the titles on him is because it all factors into their plans of The Rock versus Roman Reigns. Okay, let's move on because I've talked enough about The Rock and Roman Reigns. I've gotten that out of the way like I do every podcast. Let's take a drink break, okay? Let's take a drink break. And Jesse, really quickly, let's talk a little bit about UFC. We used to do a thing on the podcast called the Indie Minute. Let's do the UFC Minute or the Indie Update with Eric. Let's do the UFC Minute with Jesse Chaparro while I drink this delicious drink.
All right. So now we get things cracking. Now we're talking. Now we're talking to my field, all right? This is my field.
He's Fight Club shirt on.
Yeah, there we go. Woody the Woodpecker. Can't see it.
I'll knock Woody out.
Woody would knock you out. No, but I'm actually thinking about, but as we get to this topic right now, Aljamain Sterling has been sidelined for for a fat minute. He's got his beef with Peter Yan, the guy he basically won against by disqualification. Now he's got another couple of guys coming up and coming. He's got the return of TJ Dillashaw, who's basically fighting for the number one contender almost automatically, which I think it should not be. Um, he's going to be facing Corey Sandhagen this upcoming weekend, and I want to know your thoughts. Who do you think who should take the title shot against against Aljamain Sterling? A rematch with Peter Yan, or the winner of Corey Sandhagen and T.J. Dillashaw?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know most of these dudes. Okay, I don't know most of these guys. Let me be honest with you though. Okay, let me just tell you how it is. Okay, I want people who are rightfully deserving to take a title shot. Okay, I think UFC does copy some things off from WWE and other wrestling promotions. They go for the biggest fight, and in certain situations, it's understandable. Like Conor McGregor's your biggest draw, but Conor McGregor, and I'm a big Conor McGregor fan, does not deserve to be anywhere close to that title. Nowhere near close to that title. And by the way, while we're at it, that Conor whole storyline of, oh yeah, I had some injury and all this stuff, that's BS, okay? Let's just be honest here. Conor's not what he is anymore. So let's just move on. Is he still an attraction? Yes. Should he be fighting for a title anytime soon? Hell no. But getting back to the point here, I think, honestly, whoever is the rightful title contender should be fighting for that championship. Anybody, okay? Now, I don't know too much about Peter Yan, but I've heard about him, okay? And he seems like a very, very good fighter, very good MMA competitor, and I have a lot of respect for Peter Yan. TJ Dillashaw, I've seen a little bit of him, heard about a little bit of him, but I just want to make sure that the top contenders are being put in a situation where they're fighting for an opportunity to win a championship, because that's what it's all about. And I see a lot of the times in UFC, number 3 versus number 5. We saw that a lot with what's his name? What's his face that we saw earlier this year? Game Bread. What's his name again? Jorge Masvidal. Yeah, like that whole matchup was pointless. Like I want to see contenders who actually deserve it fight in the ring. So if these guys actually deserve it, then guess what? I'm all for whoever wins going to fight for the title.
All right. Now I'm going to ask you this: do you think T.J. Dillashaw will come out clean when he's fighting Corey Sandhagen? Do you think he'll be clean?
Why? Why would he not be clean? Is he taking drugs? Is he taking
he was taking PEDs
allegedly?
Mm-hmm. Not just allegedly, it's been proven. USADA popped him for that, and he's been taking a couple of enhancements to make the weight against Henry Cejudo, who he lost against in the first round.
Yeah, so if you can't beat a piss test, you're an idiot, okay? And you shouldn't be fighting in UFC or any other type of professional MMA situation anymore. I mean, I don't understand why, and this goes to everybody, even going back to Brock Lesnar, I don't understand why these guys think that they can do all these allegedly performance-enhancing drugs, not tell anybody, not research about it, not investigate about it. Like, everything you put in your body is a possible risk.
TJ knew what he was taking, but he didn't tell his coaches or anybody.
So, okay. So I don't even understand why he's even being able to allow to compete. He shouldn't even be competing anymore.
I agree, but he paid his dues. He was actually sidelined for a good couple of years. So, if you can't do the time, don't do it. If you do the crime, don't do the time.
Look, I personally think that if you get caught one time, it's minor suspension. You get caught second time, another major suspension. Third time, you're banned for life. And the reason why you need to be banned for life is because we've caught you 2 other times. You've had 2 other times to rectify your mistakes. How many more opportunities are we going to give you? So now that you've mentioned to me about TJ Dillashaw, now I don't want him to win. So thank you very much, Jesse. Whoever TJ Dillashaw's facing, please kick his ass.
That'll be Aljamain Sterling.
Shout out to Sterling, okay?
Not Sterling. Us. Corey Sandhagen.
Corey Sandhagen. Whoever it is. As long as it's not Derek Lewis with the scratchy balls. Or the itchy balls.
When he takes off his shorts and he said, "My balls are hot."
Man, somebody needs to give that man some hydrocortisone cream. All right, Jesse, what else we got on the UFC Indie MMA update? So
there's another thing. All right. So now since, Justin Gage has been kind of sidelined, he hasn't been fighting as of late, and he's, saw the chance when Michael Chandler was commentating on the fight with Islam Makhachev and Thiago. Islam Makhachev, took his shots at anybody. He wants to fight anybody or anybody in the top 10 or top 5. Now, with Gaethje on the sidelines and he wants to go fight, Michael Chandler, who do you think the matchup should be? Islam Makhachev versus Michael Chandler, or Islam Makhachev versus Justin Gaethje, or Michael Chandler facing Justin Gaethje? What's more appealing to you?
Who are the higher ranked contenders?
Right now, Islam Makhachev just moved up, but I'll say Michael Chandler since he just had the latest title shot. So
okay, well if Justin Gaethje's high and Michael Chandler's high, and they're both in a good position, why not have Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje? Look, I'm not a big thing. I mean, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. I just talked about this like 2 minutes ago. I'm okay with big fights as long as it makes sense. And it seems like if those two guys are in top contention, that makes sense. Okay, and it's a big fight, so do it. Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje. So yeah, I'm all for it. Okay, now Justin Gaethje, if he was facing Khabib, he would get his ass kicked, or even McGregor, he'd probably get his ass kicked. But guess what? He'd probably beat Michael Chandler. So who cares?
Okay, I got this one final one. Now, should I say it? When these two fighters of let me start from the beginning. When Charles Oliveira do Bronx, latest champion from Brazil, fights Dustin Poirier, who do you think who should fight for the next title match? Is it going to be the winner of Islam Makhachev versus whoever, Dan Hooker? I'm going to throw Dan Hooker in because he hasn't fought in a while. Or the winner of Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. Which one's more appealing between those two fights? And who should face the winner
Justin
of
Gaethje.
Poirier?
Mm-hmm. Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm not a big fan of someone coming out of a long sprint of not competing like a Dan Hooker. I mean, unless you're a Conor McGregor, I mean, obviously, but Dan Hooker, nobody knows who Dan Hooker is outside of hardcore MMA fans. Like, I barely even know Dan Hooker really like that. So, I mean, honestly, like, for us to be having this matchup is kind of like, well, what are we going to do here? Dan Hooker versus Charles Oliveira? Can you see that main eventing a UFC fight? Okay, sure. If they're the contenders, sure. But
I see that more as a co-main event. But yes,
a co-main event for a championship fight. Come on. All right. So look, if Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje are top contenders, you do that matchup. Whoever wins will go on face Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. I personally won't be watching it because I don't think either one of them is going to be entertaining. But hey, at least the top contenders are getting their opportunity, and we have to move on. Okay, and we got to talk about a guy who I also would think be really good.
I got one more special one for everybody. Oh. Everybody loves this because you just brought up entertainment, and these two lovely ladies are doing entertainment on OnlyFans. You know who I'm talking about, Ryan? You know who?
I don't subscribe to OnlyFans, sir. I know you do.
I'm pretty sure you do. But anyways, Paige Vanzant and the other lovely lady, I forgot what's his name. What's her name? Oh, I'll give you a second. God, there's so many people in this thing.
So popular, you don't even know her name.
No, she's hot, man.
Look, let me just say this while he's looking for this hot woman's name randomly. I am not one of these.
Rachel Ostrovich.
Okay, bro. She doesn't have. Okay. Well, look.
Hold on. Let me start this from the beginning. All right. So these entertainment ladies are OnlyFans only, and I'm pretty sure there's like a lot of dudes, even the hardcore MMA fans, subscribe to them, respectively. Okay. Anyways.
Yeah, so hold on. Let me stop you. Okay. Let me stop you right there. Hold on. Let me say this. Okay. So I get criticized by people, namely my brother, who says that wrestling fans are all virgins. They've never had sex with a woman. They've never done, they've never interacted, never dated a woman. They smell, all this stuff. Okay. These MMA people are the same people too. If that's the case, if you guys are signing up for this, okay. No disrespect to Paige Vanzant, okay, but
Rachel.
Nobody's watching that matchup for her athleticism, okay, her athletic ability. I'm going to be honest with you. She's absolutely gotten destroyed in her last couple of fights. I don't know how she's done outside of UFC. I don't know if she's done the bare knuckle thing. I don't know if she's been successful.
It is a bare knuckle fight.
But I mean, like, let's be honest here. Like, she was a very good UFC fighter. She sucked. And then you're going up against, what's her name again?
Rachel Ostrovich.
Okay, shout outs to her. I mean, these ladies are doing their thing on OnlyFans, but, you know, I'm not one of those simpy dudes who are going to watch this hoping I, you know, somehow get a sneak peek behind something like I personally want to see people who can wrestle, whether it's man or woman. I don't care about that. I want to see you can wrestle. I mean, it's great to have an attractive person there. I get it. It feeds into the sport. Paige Vanzant and them are kind of feeding into those desperate, simpy fans who are out there, who are MMA fans, who are lonely. Okay, and I get it. But the fact of the matter is this. Okay, Paige Vanzant has not been a good MMA fighter for a very long time, if ever. So she's had to capitalize on this, on what she's doing with OnlyFans and whatnot. And it's very smart because it's the market is out there for her. By the way, I've also heard that OnlyFans could be going away very soon in terms of that whole sexual content and nudity thing. They're moving past that, I heard. So for all those content creators on OnlyFans who do that type of thing, you might want to find other avenues. But getting to the point here, the fact of the matter is this. I don't really care who wins in this because I'm pretty sure the other woman can't wrestle either because I've never heard of her.
This is just a stand-up and brawl. And these are the two of the most attractive ladies in the MMA world, I guess. But look, I mean, I'm going to add this. This is going to be for the OnlyFans title.
Are you joking me? Are you joking me? I'm telling you, let's get off of this, man, before I get canceled and say something else. Say something that gets me in trouble on Twitter again, like when I made that Lacey Evans tweet 2 years ago. Okay, I had a wrestling, a full football stadium mad at me for one wrestling tweet about Lacey Evans. One tweet. It wasn't even disrespectful. It was a joke and her character tripping, about her character tripping, not even Lacey tripping, but I mean, or the person tripping. So I don't want to talk about it. If you want to simp for that matchup, y'all let us know in the comments. And y'all tell us, okay, hashtag simp for Paige. Okay, we're gonna start that. We're gonna start that hashtag simp for Paige. Okay,
I think Nick will be a big part of that.
I mean, whatever. Yeah, I won't be simping for Paige. Okay, I can simp for other people, but not for Paige. Okay, all right. So let's talk really quickly about a person who I think would fit perfectly, honestly, in MMA. Nick fucking Gage. He showed up last night on AEW All Elite Wrestling. I love his tweet, okay, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, is Nick Gage a heel? Like, I mean, everybody's cheering this guy. Everybody loves this guy after his Vice documentary. But Nick Gage cleared it up on Twitter today. He said, hey, I don't mess with MJF. I don't like him, but man, on that streets, you know, hey, I'm paraphrasing this, obviously. You got to make that money, too. And when that money calls, I'm sorry, Chris Jericho, I got to kill you. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, like, we're going to see.
Would be throwing that money out, and Nick Gage will basically go, I'm going to take this shit out, and I'm going to be swimming in money.
Yeah, so it's very interesting to see. And I guess it's going to happen next week in my hometown, Charlotte, North Carolina. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Nick Gage versus Chris Jericho as we get towards Chris Jericho and MJF and All Out. I'm going to ask you this question, Jesse. Do you think this is going to clear the way for MDK, Nick Gage, to be a part of All Elite Wrestling?
Oh, man, tough question. I don't think so. I'm going to say this. I don't think so because this has got to be something bigger. I think Nick Gage could do something bigger than MJF. Maybe he could go against Cody Rhodes. Everybody goes against Cody Rhodes basically at this point. Especially when it comes to the debut, Cody Rhodes either goes in a tag team match or faces him in a ladder match or any type of match. But no. But when facing Chris Jericho, if he would have done it sooner, that'd be great.
So this is a very interesting situation, right? Because I believe you left off the most important person, Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley and Nick Gage have history. They've done stuff in GCW. I know we're going to that GCW FSW event the night before SummerSlam in Vegas. It's going to be awesome, and we expect something to happen. Maybe the matchup is going to happen there since Vegas is technically Moxley's hometown. I really want to see how this goes. Like, can you allow someone, and I know it's on cable, but we still know that TNT, they have heavy influence. Those executives have heavy influence with AEW. They're moving AEW to TBS next year, and I think TNT might have to rethink that after we talk about our big topic of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan possibly going to AEW. But it's a situation where
rumors are becoming true slowly. I mean, I heard CM Punk is doing in-ring training again, and Daniel Bryan, I guess.
Hold on, Jesse. We gotta tease them. We gotta tease them and wait till the very end so they can continue to watch the podcast. But this is also my moment to let you know to like, comment, and subscribe below. Okay. Anyway, this is a situation where I wonder if MDK, Nick Gage, is going to be able to continue his streak of violence on All Elite Wrestling. And I know people are saying, well, RKJ, man, it is cable television. He should be allowed to do that. But we all know that executives come from these networks and, these councils that have out for people, Twitter, cancel culture, all these things, SGAWs, they all come for certain things that happen on, these shows, whether it's cable or not. And I'm concerned that if Nick Gage does something sketchy, guess what? Everybody and their mom's going to come for All Elite Wrestling, and it's going to make the company look bad. So I am really concerned. I don't know if AEW is going to sign on. I believe next week is really a trial run. How much can we do with Nick Gage? This situation, Jesse, reminds me a little bit about Terry Funk, okay? Shout out to Terry Funk. I hope you're doing well, Terry Funk. I've heard some things about him the past couple of weeks, about his health, allegedly. I hope he's doing well. But back in the 90s, Terry Funk came to wrestling, to the WWE, but he was Chainsaw Charlie. He wasn't the same. A lot of the things that he would later do with ECW and before them, he couldn't do because, it seemed like he had chains on him. Like he couldn't do enough because he was restricted by the WWE and their form of booking, their style of booking, their form of, I don't know, whatever they were dealing with at the time.
Their creativity basically restraining him from becoming more of a better character for his guy.
And the crowd wasn't invested in him. As a result, they were more invested in Mick Foley. And maybe that was the plan the whole time. And maybe I think that was the plan. But, man, they ruined one of the best characters they could have had in Terry Funk. They turned him to Chainsaw Charlie. And he lost Carrie. It didn't last for very long. It was a really bad gimmick. I really hope that situation does not happen modern day, present day with Nick Gage. Nick Gage is Terry Funk on 10 times level. I mean, this dude has actually died before, okay, doing a wrestling match, then got resuscitated and wanted to come back out and do the matchup. I mean, he took multiple stories about him taking knives and all these sorts of sharp objects and just raking people across the head.
I'll say this, Ryan. I think they will restrict Nick Gage just to a certain extent. So they won't allow him to bring knives or anything. They'll probably allow him to bring chains or pieces of wood, but that's it.
Yeah, but hardcore wrestling and mainstream wrestling is just not the same. We all know that. I mean, when's the last time we've really seen a mainstream wrestling match that's been hardcore that you're like, oh man, that was brutal? The last one I can remember, and I didn't even watch this matchup live. I wasn't watching wrestling. Mick Foley versus Randy Orton, Backlash 2004. If you have not watched that matchup, my God, you will watch that match. That is a classic, and that is the only match. I know some of you AEW fans are going to go with John Moxley versus Kenny Omega a few years ago. No, I'm sorry,
this one. How about this one? Mick Foley and Undertaker, some of the classic matches I've ever seen also as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm referring to since the turn of the century, the turn of the millennium. But and then of course Nick, he's a big Edge fan, a big Edge head, so he'll probably mention Edge versus was it Mick Foley and that with that flaming table thing. But I mean, that was kind of a hoaxy thing in my opinion. I mean, it was a great match. It was a great moment. I mean, Nick talks about it almost every podcast, but still, it's for me personally, Mick Foley versus Edge 2004 Backlash is going to be the greatest mainstream matchup, hardcore matchup you can ever have. So it's very interesting to see what happens with Nick Gage next week. What does he do? What can AEW allow him to do? And if he signs on, will this affect his GCW thing? I don't think it will. I think Tony Khan lets him do stuff with, he lets Joey Janela do stuff. So, I mean, he's very open to opening that forbidden door, as a lot of people have been saying lately with all these other promotions. So, I mean, it's a situation where Nick Gage possibly could have been out then.
Look, I will say this. With that forbidden door, a lot of crossover promotions, more entertainment, more eyes on the pro wrestling world. And that's a great damn thing. It's a win-win for everybody, except for WWE, who's basically restricted that door, closed it shut, chained it, whatever, you name it. It's been shut for for a long time. The only time they try to, they come out somewhat semi-open is when they brought back ECW, but still, it wasn't the same. It was basically garbage. I hate to say it, but the only thing that good came out of it was, what's his name, Rob Van Dam, who's actually been thrown in there trying to make it exciting for ECW's return, but it wasn't enough to save it.
Hey Jesse, you know who also was in WWE ECW?
Who?
CM Punk. Now let's get to the main topic of the show, the topic that everybody and their mom has been talking about, CM Punk. Okay. Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about Daniel Bryan. I don't want to forget about Daniel Bryan. Jesse, allegedly, Daniel Bryan, according to reports, has already signed a deal with All Elite Wrestling, pretty much done in stone. A lot of people are speculating it could happen at that big Arthur Ashe Stadium event that AEW is planning that sold very, very well in New York City at that stadium. Are you surprised that Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, honestly, are being linked to AEW? I mean, I'm not surprised about Daniel Bryan. What's your feeling, though, about Daniel Bryan and CM Punk? Talk to me about both of them.
I'll tell you this. In the past, I've heard CM Punk kind of, toying around with AEW in the past, 2 years ago. All right. But as for Daniel Bryan, I thought Daniel Bryan was actually going to stick with the WWE like John Cena was, like basically all eternity, because, that's where he got his big break. But also New Japan actually kind of helped him get up in that spot. But signing with AEW, it's a big deal. And, knowing that the caliber of pro wrestling that, Daniel Bryan brings, it's going to be pretty huge for the company of AEW. It's going to be a big loss for WWE for sure.
Tonight, The Undertaker lost his undefeated streak at WrestleMania to Brock Lesnar, and people still walked out of there happy because Daniel Bryan won both of those championships. But I have to say this with Daniel Bryan, at least, I'm not surprised. And here's why I'm not surprised. Daniel Bryan has always had a I don't give a fuck mentality. He's always said to himself, hey, if you guys won't let me do whatever I want to, I'm going to talk about it, or I'm going to go somewhere else where I can do it. We saw that a few years ago when he was doing Talking Smack. He would always make the comment, hey, I'm going to wrestle eventually, and if not, I'm going to go somewhere else. And this was during the time where AEW wasn't even thought of, okay? I don't even think All In had been actually announced before this. But it was a situation where Daniel Bryan kept saying it. I am going to go to wherever I am happy, wherever I can be fulfilled, and wherever I can wrestle the best possible matches. And honestly, Daniel Bryan wants to do way more than WWE, and I could tell he was a little restricted, and you could kind of tell that he wanted to do way more. Also, you look into the situation where you say, well, Jesse says, hey, look, I thought he was going to be with the WWE forever, and a lot of people thought that too, but he doesn't really have any more ties with WWE. Total Bellas, Total Divas, they're pretty much gone.
They're out the door.
They're out the door. So the WWE doesn't have to worry about Daniel Bryan mentioning AEW on Total Bellas or Total Divas. So it's a situation now where Daniel Bryan can leave in peace, be happy, go fight the best wrestlers he can fight in AEW and also New Japan Pro Wrestling. He can't do that in WWE. He can't go to WWE and be like, hey, I want to fight this person in New Japan Pro Wrestling. They'll be like, no. Hey, I want to fight this person in Impact. No. Hey, I want to fight this person in Ring of Honor. No. Well, where can I go? Well, you can go to NXT. Well, guess what? NXT is not what it used to be anymore. So even that is not even special. So Daniel Bryan is making a decision that's best for him. This is a part-time situation. He's going to get a fantastic schedule with him, his family, his wife. He's going to be able to go wrestle the best wrestlers in the world, either New Japan Pro Wrestling or All Elite Wrestling. And don't not forget that just because someone signs with AEW, that does not mean we won't see them on Impact. Just the same as if someone signs on Impact, that does not mean we'll not see them on AEW. The forbidden door is open. So think about all the dream matches that we will see if Daniel Bryan shows up in AEW. It's got me salivating, Jesse.
I'll tell you this though. I'll tell you this: with this match, if this dream matchup ever comes to fruition, I'll put it: Daniel Bryan versus Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley, and against CM Punk, who we just mentioned, an Extreme Rules match.
You just killed it with the Extreme Rules shit.
Okay.
Extreme Rules stuff. Okay.
But anyways, that matchup, would that get you salivating? Would that get your juices up and running?
Yeah, it would. It honestly would. But we don't want it to get hulky. Okay. Look, I've criticized AEW in the past. I've tried to be fair with AEW. I've tried not to just pour love on AEW and just constantly criticize WWE. I've tried to be fair with AEW, and I have to admit, they haven't been putting up their best stuff always during this pandemic, but they've been getting better, and it feels like since the return of crowns, I'm getting my old AEW back.
But you got to give it to them though. Even though they just barely started out, maybe a year before the pandemic, and then it kind of hit. I mean, as soon as it hit them, they kind of restricted them from doing certain things. But you got to give it to them. They've been trying to do their best, but not the best that we've seen thus far.
But maybe it's a situation where we're waiting. Maybe they're waiting for bigger events. And this is huge. Like, I've been very honest on this podcast. Once football season starts, which is going to start very, very soon, okay? Training camp starting sometime in the next week, okay? The season's right around the corner. I was interested in wrestling. I think wrestling sucks post SummerSlam. But, man, I'm going to be so busy watching wrestling post SummerSlam. It's going to be ridiculous because with what's going on in AEW, what's going on in WWE, and these other wrestling promotions, they don't care right now. This is a boom for wrestling, and we talked a lot about booms possibly being in wrestling before. We thought about it was going to happen when the Wednesday Night Wars and everything was going to happen, but I think this is a legitimate thing, and that makes me even more excited for the return possibly of CM Punk. So, Jesse, let's talk about it. Okay, everybody's talking about it. Everybody and their mom is talking about it. The reports are that CM Punk and AEW are extremely close. I see one news site saying that it's happened already, that the deal is a done deal. I don't know about that. I trust in Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful. I consider him like the Adam Schefter of professional wrestling, honestly. When he speaks, I listen. He has a very good track record on a lot of things. The Goldberg showing up, John Cena showing up earlier in the weekend. He did. Going as far as Selena Vega showing back up at the WWE. I think he was on there with the Mark Coronel situation with him getting fired. He's been on it on a lot of things. You look at all these conference calls, because I subscribe to Fightful, shout out to them. Like, Sean Ross Sapp is on the conference calls with all of them, with the Vince McMahon and the Triple H conference calls for NXT. So he would know, and he has, and I trust that he has sources. Me and Nick actually got to meet Sean Ross Sapp a few years ago when we went to our last big trip before the pandemic, All Out, and we got to talk to him a little bit about his starting and everything with Fightful. It was really good. Sean Ross Sapp's a good dude. Shout outs to him. But I'm very interested in where Sean Ross Sapp is getting his sources from. Now, I think it's
he's probably got somebody from the inside.
Unethical. Maybe it's unethical for me to question his sources. I don't want to question his sources where I'm kind of like trying to like question him and his credibility. I'm not trying to discredit what he's trying to report. I'm just trying to see how close is it to Punk in AEW? He said yesterday on one of his podcasts that it's so close that he was concerned that AEW was going to try to blackball him in a way. Like, say to him, like, hey, like I'm sorry you leaked this important information. Like, we can't talk to you anymore. But he was told that's not how AEW does business. Now, that's making me think that may be someone in AEW who's giving him that information. I'm playing it honestly, Jesse, with this whole CM Punk thing is I'll see it when I believe it. Okay, I've been on and off on this podcast, and you can go listen in our archives, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe, go listen through our archives. Just a warning, though, we were crazy back in the day, okay, and we still are, okay? So I'm just letting you know we're not saints. But the fact of the matter is, I will believe it when I see it. I mean, I've had moments where I've said, it's not going to happen. Then I have moments where I'm like, maybe. And then I've had moments like when Christian Cage showed up last year or whenever it was, and I was like, oh, that's actually going to be CM Punk. I thought it was going to be CM Punk. I really don't know until I see it. I would like to see it. But we talk about CM Punk every single year. And every single year, it always reverts back to, will he come back? Will he come back? But I think the tone and the narrative changed for me and changed for a lot of people when we saw him on WWE Backstage. Now, granted, that show, unfortunately, was in a very hard time slot to be in. It did some awful ratings, some terrible ratings. However, I will say this, it gave us hope that maybe CM Punk was starting to rekindle that passion for professional wrestling again. And it's very, very interesting now that almost a year or two later, we hear these reports again that CM Punk is coming back, possibly, and his return is imminent. Now, Jesse, I have a question for you. Why do you think Vince McMahon has not swooped on in Triple H and given him a big contract yet?
To be honest, since their relationship from the past, they kind of been at odds with one another. And we all saw it live on television that CM Punk actually called out the company and Vince McMahon and everybody else. Now fast forward a little bit, his relationship with the WWE has been somewhat rocky, and there's been reports that some of the people from the backstages still don't like him. They still hate his guts. They don't want to work with him at all whatsoever. And then some others actually still kind of like him, still do want to work with him. But unfortunately, he's out of favor because, they think he might do the same thing all over again, might screw them over. But his relationship with AEW seems a little bit better, fresher. There hasn't been any accidents, involving backstage with other pro wrestlers. So he has good connections with some of them who are basically came over from WWE to AEW and doing pretty damn great in AEW. So I mean, his relationship with AEW should not be stained because nothing has really began. The relationship between CM Punk and AEW hasn't really been anything but nothing. But as for WWE, I think his time is over with WWE for sure, 100%. That's my take.
Yeah, it's very interesting how you mentioned how there hasn't been any incidents with AEW. There was something. CM Punk and the Young Bucks and Cody and them, I guess, kind of had a little situation a year or two ago where they were trying to get CM Punk to work for him, and CM Punk said they weren't really that professional with the way they kind of courted him in a way to try to bring him over to All Elite Wrestling at the beginning. And they wanted to bring him in at All Out and All In and all these other places. And CM Punk just wasn't feeling the way they were trying to pitch him these ideas. He was willing to listen, but he wasn't willing to go over there because it was a situation where he thought they were being unprofessional. So what changed with Tony Khan?
I think the way that you said it was pretty damn right on point because he had nothing of interest over there. He thought this was like a newborn baby, and this baby is basically gonna fall apart. How any other startup business is just basically you start up and then bam, you hit a rock bottom. I mean, I think CM Punk saw something like that, but after a good 2 years, he kind of saw something booming from there, something fresh, something new. With any other, basically, he saw something that other companies did not have, and that's like basically charisma because, everybody, as soon as AEW became basically entertainment business or basically pro wrestling business, they actually have a little free will, able to do anything with the characters, which WWE and possibly I think the other companies have restricted of other pro wrestlers from doing. So, I think he has more free range to do whatever he wants with his character, and he kind of saw that and he started liking it. So, in his eyes, I also believe that it's actually a little bit bigger than NXT and any other company right now. So, I think he sees that it's a next big great thing, just like everybody else has seen in the very beginning, who actually stood with AEW from the very beginning. So, I mean, that's my point.
So I just want to say this, okay? The walls of this person will never go and leave WWE are being broken, okay? All right? I'm just letting y'all know, okay?
Barriers are being broken from WWE to AEW. Who would have thought that some of these pro wrestlers actually leave WWE? The people that said, I will never leave this place, they still end up leaving, and they head up to AEW, Impact, or any other company that's out there, and they're doing phenomenal.
Sting says hi. The Big Show says hi. Mark Henry says hi. Chris Jericho says hi. Jon Moxley says hi. And many, many more says hi. And maybe John Cena will say hi too. So it's one of those situations. Hey, Black Stradamus has got to bring that in once every now and then. Okay,
Black Stradamus hasn't hit that one just yet, but
gonna happen. Look, Jesse, let's be quite frank and let's be quite honest here. There was a report a few years ago that everybody in the WWE besides Roman Reigns had inquired about AEW. So if that means Roman Reigns is the only one not mentioned, that means everybody was looking into AEW. It's very interesting now. Now, I know there's going to be haters out there. I know there's going to be haters of CM Punk who are going to make the stupid statement of, hey, he didn't make it in MMA and he couldn't make it outside of wrestling, so he had to come back. Huh? Oh, he's too old. He can't make it. Oh, he failed. Blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. AEW is becoming a WWE cesspool all over again. TNA 2.0. Look, I understand those concerns in a way, but it's CM Punk. It's Daniel Bryan. It's two of the biggest superstars in this generation for professional wrestling. Okay? And AEW needs to continue to build positive momentum. And I think there's something special in the water. And Tony Khan is hinting that there's more coming too. And Sean Ross Sapp hinted that there's some more coming too. And I'm starting to wonder if Vince McMahon is starting to look at these contracts a little bit more closely now. If I was Vince, I would lock John Cena up for life. If I was Vince McMahon, I would try to make sure John Cena was locked up for life, because this is reminding me a lot of Hulk Hogan going to WCW. I have to bring it up because
why?
We are getting closer and closer to the ultimate news. And I'm telling you, once this happens, Twitter will break down. I will go crazy on this podcast. I will lose my mind. Y'all might have to kick me out of the podcast because I have predicted it for years. John Cena is going to AEW. Okay.
I'll say this.
I said it first.
I'll say it here on first. Okay, you'll hear me. The day that Black Stradamus proves that John Cena goes to AEW is the day I'll let Ryan choose a tattoo of anything, and then I'll put it on me.
Oh,
so
I got a crazy mind now. As we've talked about it before, I've got some crazy things that I can think of that I can put as a tattoo. So you better be careful. You better be careful making that statement. You know what's great? Because we want content. We're gonna put that on the podcast. Thank you so much, Jesse, and thank you so much for watching the Ring Journals podcast. I mean, we talked about so much. Flip through the description. You can hear me singing maybe a little bit. It's terrible, but hey, I'm having a good time and I'm having fun. Shout outs to everybody who's been watching our content. I mean, Jesse, it's been blowing up. Like, it's crazy.
actually, shout outs to our followers from Brazil. Obrigado. Okay, thank you. And yeah, I mean, this thing is really getting bigger. I thought it was gonna take a little bit more time to get bigger, but no, proved me wrong, and I'm happy for it. So thank you guys for following. As always, if you guys want to shout out to us or just communicate with us, we're more than welcome to communicate with you guys, talk to you guys. Um, Possibly we'll do future shout outs to you guys if you guys want. But anyways, thank you guys, and continue to watch our content, share with your friends and family, whoever. I mean, if you could be a little closet nerd, like pro wrestling or MMA, whatever you want, just look our way, and we'll supply you with the best content we could possibly supply.
Hey man, Jesse, wrestling's been so good lately. I think they can come out the closet now. I think they can tell the world now that they like professional wrestling, they like MMA, and that they listen to the best podcast who does it, the Ring Generals Podcast. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Put raising your ass in the sky and salute the Ring Generals.